Right, good afternoon then, folks, on Monday, the 26th of June, as we head into today's US trading session, where there is a whole lot of nothing really to go through in terms of market moving information. We were obviously speaking about the Russia situation, a potential coup on Moscow, which did not materialize. The Wagner Group was sent away or chose to leave, whichever you choose to believe. And that has been a bit of a non-event as we have headed into today's European session. As we have moved on through today's European session, we could see this morning at 8 a.m. there was a slight bit of downside, and markets have met back in the middle. And now you can see the article set for a muted open as rate worries persist. Markets remain pressured by investors' fears that the Federal Reserve's aggressive monetary tightening will hurt the U.S. economy, which is the story of the markets over the course of the last week or two, which is the same across all central banks. But we did have also, Japan's top currency diplomat escalating warning against weak yen. Normally when they do come out and say that sort of stuff, there is potential for some intervention from the Bank of Japan, which they do like doing. Some market participants think Japan will stop the yen's decline beyond 145 in dollar yen, which seems plausible, which was mentioned a few months back, which they did defend to a certain extent and then defended above 150. So we'll have to see, do they try to do that again? Dollar yen's at about 143 at the moment. So a little bit off that until we get there. Really, that's not something we can look to try and take advantage of. But apart from that, we'd oil higher this morning off the back of some potential supply chain disruptions in Russia. We then have oil markets now shrugging off Russia political turmoil, which is just writing articles for the sake of writing articles. I mean, we can see as we come across to here, as we come across to the monitor, sorry, we can see US equity futures flat 0.07060305. They are flat. You can see European equity futures, they are flat, mixed, couple slightly up, couple slightly down. You see Asia Pacific equity futures mixed. You can see crude has now dropped 1% from the highs this morning as the price of oil is somewhat stabilized over the course of today. A bit of downside in the last kind of 10 or 15 minutes across this, which we will have a look at once we come around to some charts. But commodities mixed. You can see the bond markets, and you can see bonds higher but yields lower. But then we come across to the US dollar. US dollar is mixed. The Australian dollar is lower across the board. Kiwi higher across the board, except for the Swiss franc, which is higher across the board. We can see sterling lower. CAD, euro, and Japanese yen are pretty mixed, but there's a clear lack of direction across markets, across the major asset classes as we head into today's trade. As I said, you got equities flat, you got the dollar mixed, you got a couple of these currencies which are not moving in line with the way they probably should in terms of sentiment. So yeah, it's just pretty difficult to read into what's going on across markets today, likely to do with the fact that we do have this ECB forum on central banking over the course of this week, where we do have Christine Lagarde, Jerome Powell, Andrew Bailey, to name a few of the central bankers speaking on monetary policy over the course of this week. The forum is titled Macroeconomic Stabilization in a Volatile Inflation Environment. So they will be talking about how they are going to get these economies under control, or get inflation in these economies under control over the course of the week. And that is probably likely to spur some hawkish speak from some central bankers in order to dampen the spirits of markets. But that's due to kick off this afternoon, or this evening, sorry, at 6:30, once we get around to Christine Lagarde. As of now, really not much to go off in terms of financial markets. Pretty quiet economic calendar. Did have this business climate figure, which was lower than consensus, which we were speaking about this morning, being a pretty good indication for future direction of the DAX. And we'll have to see how that plays out over the coming weeks, ahead. Sorry, but you come across to the currencies, you can see Aussie flat. You can see Kiwi slightly higher, but nothing too much. Dollar Swiss is the one with a bit of clear direction. He had a bit of move this morning. No clear fundamental driver, probably due to the fact that the central bank did hike interest rates last week. There's potential for ongoing interest rate hikes to come. So, is that a reason for some Swiss franc upside? But really, it's only a 30 pip move, so nothing major to see there. You can see dollar CAD pretty flat, euro dollar flat, cable flat, dollar yen flat, dollar index pretty flat, although it'll be a slight bit of downside. Euro dollar, a level that we were communicating to students earlier on today, this 109.10 level, I think well, I thought was a little bit important this morning. It has been breached over the course of this European session, and do we get a little retest of that and continue on? I mean, It's just a bit of a near-term nothing resistance level, so I wouldn't read too much into that sort of thing in terms of a significant break, but really just clutching the straws over things to go off over the course of today's session. You can see stock indexes flat, the S&P, the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq, the Russell all flat today. You can see the DAX, the FTSE, the Nikkei all flat today. You can come over to this, you can see oil flat today. You can see Aussie yen, CAD yen flat today. You can see gold flat, bond yields flat, making an attempt at these levels to the downside at 370 and 470, or 4.7 and 3.7 should I say, but showing no clear willingness to sell below that or buy bonds above that level. So really, I'm clutching on straws what to suggest going into this US session. The lack of clear direction across the board, across the major asset classes. For me, that means be a little bit careful until the central bankers kick off for the week a little bit later on this evening.